Commissioner Zuber, would you call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Okon?
Here.
Commissioner Bennett?
Here.
Commissioner Eggenberger?
Here.
Commissioner Perkins? Here. Commissioner Acharya is not here. Commissioner Graham-Hudak? Commissioner Engel?
Here.
Commissioner Zuber is here, and Chairman Green.
I am here, and we have Canton Planning staff of Jeff Goulet and Patrick Sloan, and we have an additional guest tonight, someone that's been with the township quite some time, and I'm going to embarrass her a little bit because I hear she's getting ready to retire. And Lee Thurston is been a longstanding member of the Township Planning Department and other areas. And did you want to say anything? You've helped so many departments over the years. I know you've helped the DDA, you've helped with other planning issues.
Yeah, that's been the interesting part about the job is I was able to get involved with parks issues, leisure services, the DDA, and planning, and lots of different roles. So that made it interesting and fun. I've had a good time.
We wish you a lot of luck and success
What are you going to do in your retirement?
at such a
Work
young age.
on my house.
Are you going to be before us? Because I don't know.
No, I won't be before Canton.
All right.
Okay, all right. Well,
Good luck.
again, we do wish you a lot of success. Okay, we had our last meeting November 4th. There were minutes associated with that meeting. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
All right, we've got a motion to accept the November 4th meeting by Commissioner Zuber and support by Commissioner Eggenberger. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda tonight consisting of 2 items. Do I hear a motion? Well, first of all, any late additions from staff?
No, sir.
From the commission? Nope, hearing none, seeing none. Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda tonight?
So moved.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Zuber and support by Commissioner Bennett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our first agenda item tonight is Fillmore Place, where we're considering a preliminary PDD, that's a Planned Development District, for property located north of Michigan Avenue and west of Beck Road. Patrick, could you give us more detail?
Sure, thank you. I'll just wait for the plans to load here. Here we go. I'll use a color version of it that'll be uploaded soon.
Excuse me.
The proposal is for a planned development district for Fillmore Place, which consists of 504 apartment units on approximately 97 acres located on the west side of Beck Road between Michigan Avenue and Geddes Road. The project density of 5.18 residential units per acre is less than the maximum density of 8 units per acre recommended by the comprehensive plan and allowed under the R6 zoning district. The proposed development will have 2 entrances located along Beck Road, and a secondary access is proposed in the southwest part of the site for a future connection to Woodbridge Estates to the west. The secondary access is conceptual at this time, and the location will be finalized prior to site plan review. Every planned development district is required to demonstrate definite benefits to the community. For Fillmore Place, the project sponsor proposes the following benefits: maintaining 33% of the site for open space, which exceeds the 25% minimum. The open space will include a large woodland area in the north part of the site. The definite benefits also include providing trails and active recreation throughout the open spaces, reforesting 2 acres of open space in the southeast part of the site, connecting the proposed sidewalk along Beck Road to the current sidewalk termination south of the Signs Drain, and making traffic signal improvements noted in the traffic impact assessment. Some of the on-site amenities will include a clubhouse, a pool, a playground, a dog park, a community garden, and gazebos. I'll read a few of the main highlights from our review letter of December 2nd, 2019. For the traffic impact, the applicant has provided a traffic impact assessment, and it recommends some improvements, many of which are already underway by other entities. For example, there's a traffic signal already planned to be installed at the intersection of Beck Road and Michigan Avenue in 2020. Also farther north, the project sponsor for Park Creek, which is located at the northwest corner of Beck Road and Geddes Road, will add a left turn signal at the intersection of Beck and Geddes Road. Canton Township's traffic engineering consultant has reviewed the applicant's traffic impact assessment and is in agreement with its methodology and conclusions. The only improvements remaining that are not going to be done by outside entities would include some signal optimization for the nearby signals. And so for the signal optimization, we'll defer to Wayne County in terms of any improvements once they review the site plan when it comes to them. For the architecture, the architectural plans that are included in the packet show 50% brick and masonry required by the zoning ordinance. For the schedule of regulations and modifications, the following modifications to the zoning ordinance requirements are proposed by Fillmore Place. First is the side building separation. They're proposing 20 feet and 30 feet is required. The second is the rear building separation. They're proposing 70 feet and 80 feet is required. The third modification is the building length. 171 feet is proposed and a maximum of 150 feet is permitted. And the fourth modification is the wetland setbacks that are illustrated on the plans. There are 95 buildings proposed, 68 of which will be longer than the maximum of 150 feet, and 27 will be shorter than the 150-foot maximum. There are many wetland areas that are proposed to be modified or filled, and therefore a permit will be required from the state. There are many additional wetland areas and densely wooded areas that will be preserved as part of the definite benefit. And at the time that site plan is proposed, there will be a tree survey for the site that will be comprehensive. The last item in our letter that I want to note is the fiscal impact. The project sponsor calculates that the estimated value of each unit will be about $160,000 per unit. Our initial calculations of the impact indicate that it will have a relatively neutral impact on the general fund, library fund, police and fire fund, and road improvement fund. In summary, our recommendation for the preliminary PDD is a recommendation of approval, and we'll be happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you. And is the project sponsor here? Okay, if there's anything you would like to add, now would be the time to do that. This is a public hearing, so we invite and encourage public response if necessary. We don't drag anybody up to the podium, but if you have any comments or concerns, now would be the time to do that. Welcome, sir.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate that. My name's Albert Meklich. I'm with Atwell. We've done the site planning and also the site engineering, preliminary engineering on the project. One of the things I'd like to point out is that we've had the DEQ come out and actually verify the wetlands that are on site as far as which wetlands are regulated and which ones are not. And we feel pretty comfortable with what we've got right now is we've minimized the impacts of the site substantially. We plan on using a wetland bank for any mitigation that we're going to have to do with the site.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything you've got.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
I got a motion to open the public hearing by Commissioner Zuber and support by Commissioner Graham Hudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll start with the audience. In addition to the sponsor, any comments, concerns, anything at all? Anything that comes to mind with this? This is a pretty large project. Nope, everybody wants to be silent?
Move to close the public hearing.
All right, we've got a motion to close the public hearing by Commissioner Zuber and support by Commissioner Bennett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to start down here in the commission. Commissioner Graham Hudak, any thoughts on this project?
Yeah, a couple of things. I notice in your descriptions, you talk about this being housing for 55 plus. So in terms of accessibility, are you looking at ADA accessibility in some of these units? They're ranches, correct? So are you building larger doorways for bathrooms or? Because 55 plus, you get to the age where you might start needing more accessibility.
Good evening, members of the commission. Mark Abenatha with Alexander Bogarts, the architects for the project. Yes, we're targeting an active empty nester in the project. As far as ADA accessibility, because of these units and the way they're designed, there is potential for that and potential for wider doors, those types of things. We will look into it as far as the overall design.
You planning any up front, or you're just saying you'd look at it if somebody came in and wanted something like that?
That's something that we'll look at. Universal design, it's something that when you target that market, it is an appropriate approach to it. So as we look at the plans and fine tune them for final design, we'll look at that type of thing.
And these are all ranches, correct?
Correct. We have, can you just quickly go through the various renderings that we did? Maybe start with a clubhouse, and I'll briefly give you an overview.
Story buildings too, though. So they're
Correct.
not all ranches.
Yes. This is the clubhouse. This is as you come in off the main drive off of Beck Road. This is going to be a main amenity center for the project. It's going to have a number of different uses within: social room, cyber cafe, lounge. All of the leasing, offices, management, maintenance will be in this large exercise fitness area, yoga on demand, state-of-the-art facility. You can see that as far as the architecture, we tried to create different interest along the elevation with different window types, head detailing, gables, and then that's carried through on the architecture for the other buildings. Can you maybe go to one of the ranch buildings? This is one of the buildings that's you'll see as you come into the project. Most of the initial units that are along Beck Road are all ranch, and that progresses as you go west back into the project. If you could maybe flip to the next one. This is our two-story building. This is more in the back of the project to the west. This has a mix of what we call stacked ranch and townhouses. Predominantly, the center of the building has back-to-back townhouses, but there are stacked ranch in the very center of the building, and then stacked ranch up above the garages, carriage units on the ends of the buildings. So yes, the project is predominantly ranch, but we do have some townhouse two-story that are in the rear. All of the units have two-car garage that are on the basic ranch units. In this building, we have one-car garage and then two-car garages on the front end corners of the buildings. And as was mentioned, we're looking at least 50% brick. The goal here is to have maintenance-free, durable product throughout the project. And that's basically it. I think that the square footage of the units are going to range from 1,100 to 1,200 square feet. That's the target market that we're looking to hit in terms of the lease up.
Some of the modifications require building separation mods and also length. I assume that's to get more buildings into there, more apartments into that particular.
Yeah, the goal typically with this type of a project, especially when there's sensitive environmental areas, is to cluster it, to get the buildings clustered in areas away from preserving those woodlands and preserving those wetland areas. And so when you do that, you want to have more density within the building footprint and cluster those footprints. So yes, that's why we're exceeding it slightly. But the building lengths, and from a multiple family standpoint, are not that long. So we're very comfortable that the massing of these buildings and as you saw in the renderings, the varying materials, vertical to horizontal siding to brick, stone, along with the gable detailing and all the different types of window detailing, that it's going to have a lot of streetscape and interest. We have varying color schemes. Typically when we do these projects, we want to have at least 3 different color schemes that alternate as you go down the street. So even though you might have the same style of ranch, side-by-side ranch, as you progress down that street, you're going to have those varying from soft grays to reds as you progress down the street. you're going to have variety of streetscape, not all the same building, all the same elevation.
Anne Marie,
Curvature.
just one explanation. One reason for the modifications is the modifications usually occur in the ranch units. And if you look at our scheduled regulations with the back-to-back and the sides to length, and that's really because of 2 to 3 story buildings, essentially. So when you have ranches, there's not a need to separate them as much because they're not as tall. So that's one reason. They're only reducing the rear to rear from 80 feet to 70 feet. I think the side to side is going from 30 to 20. So that's a typical side separation between a house is 20 feet in many cases for a higher density, like a single family, residence would normally be 15 in an R5 district. So these are still a little bit further apart than a single family residence would be. So that's why staff felt comfortable with these minor modifications. They started off with bigger modifications, and we had them come down to other modifications we branded for a similar type of product in other projects. So.
Okay, well, why we still are looking at wetland banking, pushing it backwards? That's part of the modification also, correct? Wetland setbacks, I'm sorry. Where are we looking at the setbacks?
Modification for the setback, the wetland buffer is due to the fact that we've included the buffer area, but in a couple of the areas that you've got wetlands that we're actually going to be modifying, we've included as part of the modifications for the township's purpose, that area, if that makes any sense.
So the purpose of the wetland buffer that we have in the ordinance is really to protect the edge of an existing wetland. So when they go into the state and they get a permit to modify the wetland, it's not any importance anymore because you're not protecting that edge. If the state is modifying the wetland boundary, then they're already disturbing that area. So the need to buffer that and maintain the natural vegetation on the edge of the wetland is already gone based on the modification pursuant to the permit. So when we go through site plan, we'll know specifically where those areas are, where they're pushing the wetland boundary back a little bit. They're not going to disturb as they're trying to minimize the amount of wetland they're disturbing, so they don't have to mitigate. But in that case, almost just like in Park Creek, we had minor modifications because they have these little fingers of wetlands that go through here. And if you took all of the wetland buffer areas around every one of those fingers, you'd end up with a site that wasn't really developable at all. So,
What happens, I know that, we have a lot of wet areas in Canton, we know that. Even our yard, it's wet until probably the summer's well underway. So you're doing some wetland setbacks here, and you have a chance of maybe still having some water go up to some of those buildings based on my experience in other parts of Canton. Do you put sump pumps in that area? Are there sump pumps in some of the condos, or?
All these units are going to be slab on grade, so you're not going to have any basements to begin with. One of the things that we do is the 100-year floodplain has already been modified and the LOMAR's already been in place for the Signs Drain, which is on the south side. Okay, so we know what the elevations are for the 100-year floodplain, so we're going to have the units above those elevations. When you get to the north, there's some drainage in the back, and we're providing a storm system to pick up any overflows from Woodbridge that may come over into our property, along with the drainage on the units to the north that are shedding off towards our property. So what we're doing is basically all the finished floor elevations are going to be above any flood elevations that may exist.
Okay, and of course, you're going to add retention areas then that have to be approved by EGLA. Okay. A couple other questions. So these are going to be private roads then, correct?
it's all private drives within the apartment complex. This is all rental, so there's just driveways within the apartment complex.
Okay, so they'd have to pay for their own roads then?
Everything will be maintained by the apartment developer.
Okay. One other thing, in terms of the traffic impact, I know that we keep looking at Michigan and Getty's and saying, well, there's going to be a light there, and they're going to put a light for the westbound traffic, but not eastbound. And is there any way we can keep pushing for that eastbound light? Because if you think about it.
Well, it is both ways. You'll have a light that controls traffic.
it'll stop westbound traffic, and it'll allow left turn traffic from eastbound traffic to cross over Michigan Avenue to turn on Beck. That's what the light is for. But because Beck Road doesn't go through, it's not a four-way light.
Right.
So you're controlling and allowing left turn movements and probably stopping eastbound traffic. I haven't seen the final light design yet, light design, MDOT's, got that probably at 80%. They're probably included in funding for next year's project list in this area. So we're not sure exactly what the geometrics will be, but essentially it is to stop traffic westbound and to stop traffic at least partially eastbound to allow left turn movements across the roadway.
Across Michigan Avenue.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose, is to allow, right now you can't turn left to go northbound, and that's
Right.
really the purpose of the light.
Well, if
But
you're,
it will also brake traffic going east and west if it's a full signalized intersection.
but if it's at Michigan and Beck and you're turning right, I mean, I know right now, that's where I go sometimes for work. If you turn around there and you're trying to get across to high velocity, some of those parents that are taking their kids to soccer, that it seems to me that there'd be even less of a break with this added traffic.
Well, right now, there's no brake. If there's a light there, it'll brake traffic in both directions.
But they're only putting it on the westbound side.
I don't know. Well, they're putting it in the middle of the intersection, so you can turn left.
I'm
It will
talking
stop, it will stop traffic both ways.
at Beck in Michigan, that's what I'm talking
At
about.
Beck in Michigan. It'll stop traffic both ways, and it'll have a left turn signal to turn left.
Okay,
Will it
It's a
be like,
it's a full light,
going eastbound. That's what I'm
east
talking
and
about.
westbound. When it stops, it stops. And it's going to have a left turn phase to allow left turn phases to go north,
All the way across like they do in front of Walmart then.
I assume. So I'm saying I haven't seen the exact signal design yet. We can check for you, but
Okay.
I assume if they're going to put a traffic light in, it's to brake traffic and allow left turn movements. They have to stop the traffic to allow the left turn movements. So they're not going to stop traffic one way and not stop traffic the other way.
Okay, if you could find out, because I heard it
Yeah.
wasn't going to be that extensive, that would be good.
So the only thing it might not do is stop eastbound traffic, in that direction. I don't know why it wouldn't. The only reason why it wouldn't is because there's no opposing traffic coming from the south.
I think that's what Anne Marie is saying.
Right. That's up to MDOT on how they manage their traffic, and we have no control of that. We'll find out what the design requires. So, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Engel? No questions, thanks. Commissioner Zuber?
I have some questions about the exterior aesthetics, if I may. I'm sorry, you have to tell me your name again. I know we've met.
That's Mark.
Mark? Okay, thank you. On the two-story buildings, if you don't mind going to those
Sure.
first. The brick going up and down, I'll anticipate your question, because Greg was asking me about the brick. I assume, are you bringing it down under those roofs just so you don't have to flash that roll-out course up above those roofs? Like at the porch roof and the bump out for the little window on the first floor?
That has something to do with it. It's also just to create interest as you go across the elevation. To just have one belt line that runs all the way across, you gain much more interest by bringing it up and down. You can see we've done that throughout on the fronts, the sides, and the rears.
Okay. If you could zoom out just a little bit, up above the oriel window on the second floor, just to the right of those, it looks like you have metal roofing that'll be at a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of a different slope.
Yeah, it's somewhat, when you look at it in relationship to that overall 3D, we'll probably do something to that detail to kick it up a little bit more.
Okay.
Make it a little bit more prominent so it doesn't look like it's laying flat on the roof.
That's what I was going to
I don't,
suggest.
correct. All right, thanks.
Yeah, that it just,
I don't think the rendering is quite as the final as to what the design's actually going to look like.
yeah, I figured. Your floor plans are very sketchy still, so, yeah. Yeah, we were wondering if those were solar panels at first, so.
But why metal? Why metal? Why not continue with the same roofing
Once
material?
again, to create interest, it's another element of interest on the elevation. There's more expense in going to the metal, and it's definitely to create interest.
Yeah, on the first, the one-story buildings, if you could look at that B alt page, it says at the very bottom right corner, B alt. That is a sheet it's right there in the middle, yeah. Is there anything you could do differently to that bottom elevation on that sheet that would make it so that it's not just a bunch of, 4 garages sticking way out, and then the entryway, if you look at the plan of those buildings, it looks like the entryway is way back. So,
Yeah, this is a series of 4 of what we call our narrower ranch products, and we've tried to minimize that. We've tried to, put the wider units as well as the narrower units and intermix those. So, I mean, we can look at the elevation a little bit more, but once again, it's all about trying to mix the product and get it to fit on the site in certain locations. So.
yeah, absolutely.
Plus, these units, this unit and the other unit are going to be very popular from the standpoint of the product in general.
Yeah, I think the elevations in general look really nice, so thank you for,
Great, thank you.
absolutely.
One thing you might do, Mark, on something like this is, I know you've modified the roof lines over the garages. You may need to look at garage design, the garage door design, and differentiate, the garage doors a little bit so they don't look all the same, when you travel down the street,
Could there be some two-door garages?
Some of them with windows or.
There are things that we can do. We'll take a look at this.
That's all I had, yeah.
Commissioner Perkins?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Commissioner Eggenberger?
I just had a couple of questions on, looks like I'm on page 57, and it just kind of talking about the amenities around the area. I see that there's a community garden, a fabric canopy area, a dog park, gazebo, a nice little community playground. Is this a done deal, or is this just making it look pretty?
No, this is a done deal. This is what we're striving for.
The picture should be representative of what they're proposing.
Well, no, yeah, we're going to do this, yes. I don't know if it's going to be the exact same bike rack but yes.
So the representative of what they're proposing, the actual details will be in the site plan. So you may see the same detail back on the site plan, but they try to get as close as possible to what they were recommending, since they wanted to give you a flavor of what they were intending to do for the project in terms of the level of quality.
There'll be a playground.
And then the size of the units?
They're roughly 1,100 to 1,200 square feet.
Is that the ranches, or is that also the townhouses? Have this on. Is that also the townhouses?
I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have this.
What I call the narrower and the wider ranch are close to 1,200 square feet. Let me get to that in a minute. 1164 to 1137, and then the townhouse units are, on the upper ranch units, they vary from like 1,213 square feet to 1,100 square feet, and then the townhouses are like 1,188. So as I mentioned,
11 to 12.
predominantly they're pushing 1,150 to 1,200 square feet.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Bennett?
Jeff, what is the minimum square footage for housing in Canton?
I have it right here, I'll look it up. Depends on the zoning district. For R6 and MR, the minimum is,
Dependent on bedrooms. For one bedroom, it's 650 square feet. For 2 bedrooms, it's 900 square feet. 3 bedrooms, it's 1,150.
so these are all larger than a typical 2-bedroom. Most of these are 2-bedroom apartments, yeah. So these are a lot larger than most 2-bedroom apartments are, so. These are similar to the Redwood apartments you've seen in the past in terms of what they're competing with, in terms of the current empty nester product. They want really 2 full master suites, essentially. Each bedroom, I think, has its own bathroom generally, or access to another bathroom. So they're pretty sizable. They're condo-sized apartments, basically.
And if they ever came back with additional bedrooms, if it was a modification, they would have to come back for a modification request formally.
That's all I had.
Commissioner Okun?
Overall, I think everything looks really nice. I like the mix of the single story and the two-story. Architecture looks good. I like how the density is a lot lower than the R6 currently. And I think my only question was for Jeff was, since this is 55 and older, does that have to be stated in the PUD agreement?
They're marketing towards empty nesters, they're not age restricting the project.
Oh, okay.
Similar to Redwood, and they think their market in the area is more empty nesters, people that are moving out of their houses and want something smaller and carefree, but they don't want to move out of the community.
Thank you.
Are these predominantly or exclusively rental units? Or will there be some that are actually purchased?
These will be all rental units.
All rental units, okay. First of all, I do want to commend the project. It's a very large project, and I appreciate the effort that was put into this in terms of design. I want to ask you a couple questions about the amenities. Commissioner Eggenberger touched on them, and I have some questions as to, like, the community park, the community garden. What's expected to happen there in terms of that? Who can use it? Who's going to use it? Is it restricted?
Well, at this point in time, the community garden is for the residents of the project.
Okay, only of that project. So if the people to the north and the condos wanted to traipse over there, they would be excluded from that, or is that, okay. Your nature preserve, I like the idea of having the trails through there. Obviously, Canton is not always a walkable community, so those are kind of nice benefits to have. But speaking of which, and this is something probably not for us, but maybe for MDOT, I see a lot of pedestrian traffic going on that southern exit, going across the street to the mall over there. Is there a possibility that MDOT or the county can take a look at least identifying a pedestrian walkway, something across there? Because I can see nothing but trouble there.
Well, we do have walkways along Michigan Avenue, both on the industrial side and the commercial side, so there'll be an opportunity to put a crosswalk in at Michigan, across Beck Road at Michigan Avenue. I doubt whether or not the county would allow a mid-block crossing unless we did it like we did in other locations and had a hawk signal or something.
I'm not looking for a light or anything like that, but just identification.
The county's going to require a light if you cross mid-block. They're going to require a signal based on the speed of the road and based on the type of traffic on the road, just like Cherry Hill Road or Palmer Road has the hawk signals. They're going to require a signal. If it's more than 25 miles per hour, they're going to require a signalized crossing if it's in mid-block.
And then lastly, the dog park, is that going to be run similar to the Canton Dog Park where you have to purchase access? Is it going to be fenced and have electronic access or anything like that? Or is it just going to be an open park?
At this point in time, we're looking at our possibilities. The way we stand right now is just going to be for the residents, and it'll be open to them for any time they want to use it.
So it won't be fenced off or anything?
It will be fenced.
Oh, it will be fenced.
Yeah, we will have a fenced area.
All right. It looks very nice, and those amenities are very welcome. I commend you on the design effort. Just one last thing, and this is probably for Patrick, because I know people that are going to get hold of this project, in addition to the project going on to the north at Getty's, are probably wondering, where are we putting all these people? Could you explain real quickly that this is planned for, that this is not necessarily something that we knew was going to happen, but that we're not overburdening our systems and those kind of things?
Well, the project at Beck and Getty's is 2 per acre. It's a fairly low density compared to the eastern part of Canton Township. This is, basically was planned for 8 per acre. They're coming in just above 5 per acre. So it's a big project. It's 100 acres. So this was basically the site that the Oakwood Hospital Medical Complex was going to be on 15 years ago. So I think as we went through the master plan a couple of years ago, we looked at this area to determine whether or not it should stay, industrial or commercial, or whether or not it should be residential. And based on the amount of acreage we have in the area for industrial and commercial use, we felt that this was a good transition spot between Chatterton, which is at 7 units per acre, to the industrial uses along Michigan Avenue. So I don't think we wanted to promote single family in this area. You've got flight lines for Willow Run that go over the property that are somewhat impacted. Plus, you don't want to put single-family in between industrial and multiple family. So to have something like this, even though it's not ownership, it's a good transition between the condos we have along Getty's Road and the industrial we have to the south.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that.
And again, the comprehensive plan calls for a medium-high-density residential of up to 8 dwelling units per acre based on all the studies, including the sewer study. And the proposed project is just over 5 units per acre, so it's well under the comprehensive plan density.
And the 33%, I think it was 33% open space?
Correct.
Which is well above the required 25%. I do appreciate that. I really, really do. I like it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to recommend preliminary approval of the Fillmore Place Planned Development District on tax parcel number 125-99-0002-709 as provided in the Plan Development Agreement and plan documents.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Zuber and support by Commissioner Perkins. Any further discussion? Commissioner Zuber, would you call the vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Okon?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Eggenberger?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham Hudak?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Zuber, yes, and Chairman Green.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you. Next stage, Patrick, for them, for this project?
The next stage will be to go to the Township Board of Trustees for final action on the preliminary PDD application. And then after the board makes a decision, if the board approves it, then they'll be on to final PDD.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. Yep. Our next agenda item is a site plan with Canton Center Crossings Beaumont Urgent Care. This property is located west of Canton Center between Hanford and Warren. And Jeff, could you tell us more?
Yes, I've asked Beaumont Urgent Care. They're the tenant of the old bank building there on Canton Center, just north of Hanford. You think used to be the Citizens Bank building. It's owned by the shopping center owner, Mr. Mackey's here, and we have the project sponsor from Beaumont here also with us tonight. Amy is here to talk to you. What happened during the process of converting this from a bank to a medical office building is staff administratively approved some changes to the building to remove the canopy off the south side of the building that was the bank drive-through, and that side was going to be restored with natural brick. But what happened in the process is that Beaumont Urgent Care, the tenant, asked the contractor to go ahead and paint the south side of the building and the entrance of the building, painted over the brick blue. They also, if you see this picture, you'll see the trim around the windows was painted dark gray. They've since repainted that limestone back to a limestone color. So right now they're asking for approval to basically keep, we told them we generally frown on painting natural brick because the ordinance generally requires brick, so it's a natural material, and we generally don't want the maintenance of a brick surface. They've been unable to get the blue paint off and restore the brick without damaging the brick. So what they're asking the Planning Commission to consider tonight is to paint the blue, the entry as it's shown in the pictures here. This is their proposal, is to paint it kind of an off gray color to kind of match the masonry. I told them I could not approve that administratively and they needed to come see you. So we've got Miss Amy Trombetto with Beaumont Urgent Care is here tonight to describe what their proposal is and to take any questions from you. And then I need direction from you on how you want them to basically restore the look of the original building.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I am the construction manager for the Beaumont Urgent Care facilities throughout southeastern Michigan. We occupied this building as a 10-year tenant. We occupy every building as a 10-year tenant. So we do put a lot of time and effort and thought process into how Beaumont wants these to look and the branding of Beaumont. Obviously, everyone's familiar with that. In our dual effort of a landlord construction manager and a tenant construction manager, we were working together with them to do a few more things to the building, inadvertently not knowing that there was a bigger process here. So here we are, and we are looking to take care of this and make it look make it look good for the community, and also for the community to know that, you know, we are offering a service for the next 10 years, if not more, in this building. So in our effort to go ahead and rectify the blue, we are matching that wall. It's our intent to match that wall that is currently blue, currently has our lit sign on it, which was approved and permitted, and match it to the limestone so that the contrast, be able to see the sign, be able to match what's existing on the building, would be the permanent fix for the overall look of the building to remain. The front entry, we were permitted to keep the Beaumont blue, as we call it, up in the peak. And it's currently also on the sides of the entrance, just to kind of bring your eye into that is the Beaumont building. And we put the pilasters back on, columns back on. During the process of the landlord's construction, they were taking down the drive-through. We had requested if they could take those off for us, and they did. And then we were told that's probably not a good idea. We need to put them back up for contrast. So that's what we did. And if you see the proposed rendering, that is actually a rendering of what is actually back on the building as far as the front entrance and the two sets of columns. They're there. They have been installed. It's a difficult building to kind of see sometimes as you're, especially with the trees in full bloom. Now you can see it, but it is a little difficult as you're coming up the street to see it. It's set back a little bit. So the intent was to put the blue with the blue sign, the Beaumont blue sign, all lit up, and then it would give it more visibility. So we are proposing to go ahead and take that wall that is currently blue on the side and paint that to match what's currently on the limestone, and then also keep the blue peak and paint again, match that brick, or match the color to the limestone.
Okay. So the bottom picture there, so what you're saying is that actually, instead of limestone, is actually blue now?
Blue, and it's brick. We painted the brick.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yes. That is currently the way it looks, except for not the gray paint. It's just that blue wall's there currently, and it was painted. And we attempted to remove the paint in other ways. Any mason we talked to said, if you sandblast this brick, you're gonna rip it apart. It's not gonna work. We did our very best to high power wash it with still speckles of blue in there. Our ultimate fix, and in agreement with the landlord, that we would paint that blue wall to match the limestone. So it would be an accent wall. You could see it lit up at night really well when the sign's lit, because it's on a lighter wall, and then it would match the exact color of the limestone.
I'm just going to open this up to the commission, because I have mixed feelings on it.
Of the
Thoughts?
tan color?
Well, just for me.
Okay.
I'm okay with the side display with the blue.
Sure.
I like the blue at the peak on the front, the front entry, but I do think you ought to get rid of the blue below, like that, okay? I like that picture right there, but
Yeah.
you could have the blue on the side, and I wouldn't have a heart attack over that.
Okay. I mean,
Kind of like mixture of worlds there.
right. I mean,
For me.
ultimately, if we could keep the blue on the side, what's already been done, we would appreciate that.
I don't know what
But
the-
we do have the intent, if need be, to restore
Else have
it.
any thoughts on this?
Yeah, one of the discussions we had with the landlord, that I had with the landlord while we were going through this, was that the paint was going to be a short-term fix, that they would evaluate and to determine what they were going to do with the brick. One option was to reface the painted brick with some other cultured stone or a limestone material that would go with the building. So they came back with basically just repainting the blue brick a different color that blended with the design of the building. I mean, that's why I did not want to make the decision for you, and that's why they're before you
No, I
tonight to discuss it, so we
appreciate
could
that,
look
yeah.
at what the options would be, so.
Bennett?
I think I'd like to hear what Commissioner Zuber has to say, since this is your wheelhouse.
Oh, geez. Put me on the spot. Well, I was noticing that Patrick has a Beaumont blue shirt. I want to commend you for wearing that tonight.
Just a coincidence.
We're singing the blues.
You're singing the blue. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I struggle because I know, for one thing, painting brick, you're tied to painting it forever, which is, obviously you see. And I'm not, I don't like, I don't know. I'm not sure I agree about the blue side piece. I think I kind of like what's in these two renderings better than leaving that.
I mean, should it be, one of the things is, based on this rendering, should it be darker to allow a bit of contrast with the trim?
Yeah.
Is it too light, based on the color of the brick, and the limestone is already that color? So if you really want the limestone to pop off, should this be a little bit darker gray? And I don't know, that was my feeling when looking at the renderings. We're trying to look at paint chips back and forth via email, and that's not necessarily the best way to resolve this. I'm looking at how the columns, how this light gray, the pilasters really don't pop off architecturally with the lighter gray behind them.
Yeah, but I think if you bring in another color again.
But you brought up also.
This is actually the color that's in that rendering that matches the limestone. And I can give this to you. And these
Jeff,
are
was this
ones
the
we
old,
were sending
this was
back
the old
and forth.
drive-in area?
This was the Citizens Bank building.
And it was First Merit for about a
And First
minute.
Merit. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I told you.
Okay, all right, one,
Right there, it faces, it faces Canton Center Road,
okay,
north of,
right.
north of where Family Video used to be, right there on the
But
north
Jeff,
side.
this wall.
Ruger's
that's the
Bagels
drive-
used to be there.
That wall used to be
We have one meeting, please?
the south face where the big gray wall is where the drive-through canopy was taken off.
Oh,
The
just-
roof, roof was repaired, and then the brick was filled in where the bank window drive-through was. So
Then they
essentially,
decided to paint
this came out, they added more parking spaces where the drive-through used to be for the drive-through, bank lanes.
So it was all this red colored brick before they painted it?
Yes, yeah.
Painted it because,
Wanted an accent color for Beaumont. There was a miscommunication between the landlord and the tenant. The tenant had an approval from us, or the landlord had an approval from us, and they were working with the landlord on other changes to the building without involving us.
oh, so the landlord had approval from us to paint the brick?
No, the landlord actually stopped them and told them to stop painting the brick and the limestone trim. And they're trying to resolve it between landlord and tenant, between whatever their lease terms are.
Yes.
So basically, they're making it the responsibility of the tenant to come before you and get a permanent fix approved.
And this fix that you see in these renderings is the agreed-upon permanent fix between Beaumont Urgent Care and the landlord.
I'm okay with that.
I actually like the darker one, like you were saying, Dawn, to match the trim more. I mean, the,
Can we just
Wait.
vote on which one the commissioners like?
Yeah.
Well, the only proposal is this one in front of you. The other
Yeah,
one is the
I mean,
existing
I have no
building,
problem with
so-
it.
Yep.
Looks good.
Good.
Yeah. Let's vote.
We're in agreement then? Because I could go either way, quite honestly. I don't want to, I
That's
don't
on
want to beat a
record.
dead horse here.
Okay.
No, I think we should stick with that proposal. So I'll make a motion that
Do it.
we approve what's shown there, since we don't have a model motion.
What's the color name, Amy?
Oh,
Beaumont blue. Oh,
It is Sherwin-Williams 7050, useful gray.
why don't you make that motion,
Useful gray.
Oh, great.
as opposed to the unuseful
It's the
gray?
gray, exactly.
The gray you can barely ever find a match for.
Right.
this doesn't have to go before the board, right? I mean,
No, this is just for you, yeah.
okay.
I move we go with that.
Yeah.
Support.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Higgenberger and support by Commissioner Perkins to accept the design presented in front of us. Commissioner Zuber, would you call the vote, please?
Certainly, I think I can manage that. Commissioner Okan?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Eggenberger?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham Hudak?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Zuber, yes, and Chairman Green.
Yes. I have one quick question, though. What is going to happen here that can't happen up the street at the other Beaumont facility at
Beaumont
Walmart?
facility has an emergency room. They don't want you in the emergency room unless it's an emergency. So Beaumont partnered with
So
a company to
urgent-
create Beaumont Urgent Care, so there is one in front of Royal Oak Beaumont. There's one in front of Farmington Hills Beaumont. to take off the load from ERs.
So urgent is less emergency than urgent.
It's
Okay,
urgent,
gotcha.
non-emergency.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I just needed to know that.
Urgent
All
care is
right.
when you can't get an appointment to see your doctor, you go to an urgent care.
Exactly.
Yeah, basically.
Hey, we do x-rays too, though.
Well, good luck.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, we've got some business to send to staff. We've got 4 projects. I'm not going to read them all. Do I hear a motion to send those to staff?
So moved.
Support.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Zuber and support by Commissioner Engel to send those 4 projects to staff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we also have a public hearing for January 6th. It consists of 3 projects. Again, I'm not going to read those. Do I hear a motion to set that public hearing?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Zuber and support by Commissioner Perkins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything from staff?
Well, I would just like to personally thank Lee for her 16-plus years of service. She's,
Absolutely.
so I don't know that we can find the skill set that we've had in Lee over the past 16 years to replace her. She's, become a great resource to a lot of other divisions, and, from dealing with the DDA assistance, from working on ponds and landscaping and the tree ordinance, and her extensive knowledge of work in the field, working with our contractors and landscapers and landscape architects. We're going to really, miss her valuable contributions that she's made to the division over the past, decade and a half. So
I agree. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Lee.
Congratulations, Lee.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Well, we'll see everybody next
Hey,
year
Jeff.
also, right?
So
Happy New
moved.
Year.
Do we have
Merry-
dates for next
Yeah,
year?
that's
Next
right.
year?
We're going to see everybody next
Do
year.
we have
but-
dates for next year yet, official dates?
Yeah, that was presented and approved.
We approved them behind your back.
Was it last month that we approved them?
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.